Welcome back to LJM's Workshop. Something a little bit different here. We're going to go through some rules leaks. So first up, some of the leaks that we're going to be going through are Stormcast Eternals. This is all the rules from the launch box, Skaven Tide or whatever they're calling it. It's the launch box of 4th edition. And luckily, we found plenty of stuff on the internet. People breaking all this down. No, I'm breaking it down. People have found the pictures. Yeah, I'm breaking it down. So these seem to be quick start rules from the launch box. Battle trait, first one we see up, is in your movement phase. As you can tell, these are all colour coded. I'm going to have a video on the quick start rules shortly, just going through all the different colours. This is exactly the same as it previously used to be. Pick a friendly Stormcast Eternal keyword unit that's in the Celestial Realm. So the Celestial Realm is placing units into what we call Deep Strike. And the effect is you can set it up anywhere in the battlefield more than 9 inches away from all enemy units. This, other than maybe a slight wording change, is absolutely identical to how it works in 3rd edition. You can start them off the table. In your first movement phase, you can drop them down. This is handy for keeping valuable things away from getting shot to bits on the first turn before you get to go, and also getting slower moving units into a forward position, such as Annihilators, who've only got a 4-inch move, but you drop them in, cause all sorts of chaos. The only artifact power that's currently in the quick start game is Mirror Shield, which is identical to how it was in 3rd edition, which is you can't be targeted from shooting attacks unless the attacking model is within 9 inches of it. I would have liked to see this was you just couldn't be targeted, like Grinning Blades is for Cruel Boys, which means you couldn't get targeted through abilities, spells, anything else than that. But having it just to stop you getting shot isn't too bad. Next up we'll be going through battle formations. This is the change in 4th edition to sub-factions. Sub-factions are gone. Now use battle formations to get your abilities. In this one you select a friendly keyworded Ruination Chamber unit. Ruination. And you can give it a 5+ ward for the rest of the turn. This is really strong considering Stormcast generally have higher than normal wound counts on the individual models, as well as a Ruination Chamber. I'm going to dread having to say this all the time. The Ruination Chamber also have a ability which we'll see in just a little bit, being able to avoid abilities on a dice roll. So you can get a very tanky, chunky golden boy that came from the heavens. It's going to be extremely hard to shift. And last that we can say on this, because unfortunately we've only got so much in view, is a prayer law, which is blessed weapons. It's slightly different to how it was in 3rd edition. This is a prayer. There's a very good article on the Warhammer community on how prayers work in the new edition. You roll 1 dice, you get ritual points. This one is going to be very hard to pull off on the first time, just due to the fact that you need 6. You could pull it off on a single dice, though it's extremely low chance. So more than likely, you're going to want to build up your ritual points for this. It's a very nice one though. You pick a friendly Stormcast Eternal's priest to chant this prayer. Pick a visible friendly Stormcast Eternal infantry unit, so unfortunately, no chariots, no dragons, anything else like that. Wholly within 12 to be the target. Make a cast and roll a d6, so you roll 1 dice. The effect is you get +1 attack, +1 to the attack characteristic of this target's melee weapons till the start of your next turn. If the chant and roll was a 12+, this ability affects all visible friendly Stormcast Eternals, and the rest of it is going to be cut off. But I can pretty much guarantee it's going to say Stormcast Eternal units wholly within 12 inch of the caster, which is a huge buff, because it's not just 1 extra attack, it's 1 extra attack to every model in that unit. So if you have a unit of 5 Liberators, each of them, including the Grand Hammer, so the special weapon, gets an extra 1. So realistically, it's like you've got an extra, well, it's an extra 50% output on Liberators. Obviously, certain units, like bigger reinforced unit is going to get even more value from this, such as double reinforced annihilators, providing they still hit as hard as they did in 3rd edition. So the first war scroll we're going to look at is one we haven't seen yet. This is the Lord Terminus, or everyone's going to call it Lord Terminus. Let's just get it real. It's a very silly name, but he looks very cool. This is the one that's got the big headsman's axe. So pretty standard for Stormcast. He moves 5 inches, he's got 6 wounds, he's got a 3+ save and a 2 control score. He's armed with 1 weapon, which is the Blade Terminus. He's got 4 attacks, hits on 3s, wounds on 2s, 2 rend, 3 damage. He's also got crits that are mortals, which means if he rolls a 6 to hit, he does flat 3 mortal, I want to say wounds, but it's now mortal damage. Also, if anyone says mortal wounds, everybody's going to know exactly what it means. So the first ability that he's got is once per turn for your full army, and it's only for Ruination Chamber units. They've all got this. Make a resistance roll of a d6. On a 4+, that ability has no effect on this unit. When we add this with the battle formation tactic of having a 5+ ward, maybe not the best unit to use it on, but it's going to make them extremely tanky in a pinch. Just a note too, the Ruination Chamber ability can only be used on non-core abilities, which means you can't use it to ignore anything that is such as a command, so you can't use it to stop the smash through or all-out attack. Anything that allows you to shoot out of the shooting phase or to ignore a charge or something of the sort. His next ability is got a purple colour, which means you use it at the end of the turn, which is the old Battle Shock phase. Effect: this unit's memoriam as a token, which basically just means that it's not actually going to affect movement, it's just a simple token to remember how many you got left. Add 3 to the control scores of friendly Ruination Chamber units wholly within 12 of this unit, while the memoriam is on the battlefield. Really nice to make sure having a small model count unit or army such as Stormcast will be able to compete against larger wound count models such as, larger model count armies such as Skaven, also by Grave Lords with a shitload of zombies. If you make an unmodified save roll of a 1 for the unit, remove the memoriam from the battlefield after attack has been resolved. Damage points still inflicted, so you can't pass wounds off onto these memoriams. They're not an extra wound like some old companions used to be in Age of Sigmar 3. These aren't. It is very easy to lose this if, say, you get a fight in a horde army where they're going to throw a lot of little weak attacks. Rolling just 1 save of a 1 means you lose this ability. So, as much as he's a big fighty character, you possibly don't want to have him all up in the business unless you know he's going to not get hit in return. Finally, his last ability, which is the same as his Spearhead ability. You use this in the combat phase, and you can use it in any combat phase after you declare a fight ability for this unit. You're picking friendly, non-hero, Ruination Chamber infantry unit that's just fought, just done a fight action. If it's within the unit's combat range to the target can be picked to use a fight ability immediately after the fight ability by this unit has been resolved. If it's picked to do so, +1 the hit rolls to targets attacked for the rest of the turn. It's a really nice ability as well, because if there's any way to fight twice, the +1 to hit will work in both instances. He can't put it on himself because he can't only select non-hero units, though being able to make something activate instantly is a very strong ability. Next up, we've got Lord Veritant. Much better name than the previous one. So we've got very similar stats. I think it's actually identical to the previous one. So move of 5, wounds of 6, 3 up save, and 2 control score. He's got 2 melee weapons. We've got a staff, which is 1 attack freeze and freeze, 1 rend, flat 3 damage, no abilities. Then we've got the Judgment Blade, which is 3 attacks, freeze, freeze, -1, d3 damage. Though, it does have Anti-Priest for an extra rend, and Anti-Wizard for an extra rend. Again, since it's Ruination Chamber, it's got the same ability, roll d6, on a 4+, ability has no effect on this unit. Then it has 2 passives. One, which is a magic debuff. Effect is, this unit's Griff Crow is a token. Subtract 1 from the casting, enchanting rolls for enemy units within 12 inches of this unit while the Griff Crow is on the battlefield. And again, exactly the same as the previous one, on a save roll of 1. And this is an unmodified roll, so you have to roll a roll of 1. No effects of rend or anything of the sort. Remove the Griff Crow from the battlefield, and the attack goes through. Again, doesn't save you any wounds. And the last ability is a Staff of Adjuration. The effect is, it can use the Unbind ability as if it was a wizard. A power level of 1. This unit, from as far as I can tell, obviously it's not the highest quality image, but it's a level 2 priest, which means it can chant twice, which is actually pretty strong. Next, to round out the last three, the third of all the lords, we've got a Lord Vigilant on a Griff Stalker. It's got a movement of 12, it's got 8 wounds, 3+ save, 2+ for control, well, a 2 for control. He's got 2 weapons, he's Hallowed Great Axe, 5 attacks, freeze, 2 rend, 2 damage, nice solid profile, no abilities unfortunately. Then he's Mount, the Griff Stalker's Beacon Talons, 3 attacks, 4s, freeze, -1, 2 damage. Flat 2 damage is always nice. Relatively fighty. Obviously we're going to have to see more units to compare, depending on, just to see just how fighty he is. He's got the same ability as all Ruination Chamber units, which is the resistance roll on a d6. And then he's got once per battle in any combat phase. You choose a friendly non-hero Ruination Chamber unit wholly within 12 of this unit. The effect is you can use the 2 fight abilities this phase. After the first is used, it then gets Strike Last for the end of the turn. So the way that this would work is very similar to how Chosen and Age of Sigmar 3 currently work, where it'll fight. Everything else in the game, well, in that battle, will fight, and then once everything is gone, that unit can fight again. Obviously you want to put this on something that isn't going to die before it gets to swing back, but Stormcast have got plenty of strong units that you can buff up to the 9s. Other abilities, ones that have been seen, you can make extremely tough hammers that also work as great anvils. Bit unfortunate, it doesn't seem like he has a ward, and none of these units so far have. It's a bit unfortunate, but as you can see, there's plenty of our rules we can layer on top, and who knows with other support characters if we can gain them. Next we got the Reclusians. Terrible name, great lore. This is a unit of 3 models. They move 5, they've got 3 wounds each, so there's 9 in the unit. 3+ save, control of 1. Each of them have Rune Blessed Weapons, which is 3 attacks, 4 on the champion, freeze, -1, 2 damage. They get criticals on mortals. So, they're okay. They've got 10 attacks in a unit. That's not reinforced. They've got 10 attacks in a unit, and they do 2 mortals on a 6 to hit. They're okay. Points dependent is going to be really big on these guys. They can be pretty tough, but personally, just from previous experience on Stormcast, it's a very common stat line of 3 wounds on a 3+ save. The Ruination Chamber is nice, and then being able to give them a 5+ ward too, but without seeing what big hitters, like Annihilators, it's going to be... I'm not entirely sold on them just yet. The passive for their Memoriams. This unit's Memoriam is a token. as we previously said, there are 2 memoriams for every 2 models in this unit. When any of this unit's memoriams are on the battlefield, +1 to the unit's resistance roll when using the Ruination Chamber ability. Each time you make a non-modified save, remove one. A modified roll of a 1, remove 1 of the memoriams from the battlefield. It's quite nice because you got a resistance roll on a 3+ instead of a 4+, and then you can add the ward on top. Again, point dependent is going to be really important on these guys because they're great models, but can they do enough for the points, which we don't know as of yet. We're almost done here, we've just got 2 more units to go. Unfortunately we don't have the Night Questers War Scroll, which was quite an interesting one. But here we've got Prosecutors, 12-inch move, which is really nice because Stormcast are generally quite slow moving outside of deep striking. Normally they can get where they want, but once they're down they don't really move very far, so 12's nice. 2 wounds on a 3+ save. This is increased from a 4+ on the previous edition. Having a 3+ save, it's really nice. They're all armed with Stormcall Javelins. It's a range weapon as well as a melee weapon. Got a 10-inch range, 1 attack each. Freeze, -1, D3 damage. No abilities. And then the melee version, they've got 3 attacks each, 4 on the champion. Freeze, -1, 1 damage. If they do make charge, they're doing flat 2 on the charge. Again, these have got 10 attacks in a normal unit. On the charge, they're doing freeze, -1, 2 damage. They're pretty decent. They do have Ruination Chamber, which also makes them quite annoying to get rid of. If you maybe have an ability which you can maybe use to lift them, because there are only 6 wounds on a 3+ save, which is, if there's any abilities where, like say maybe it's a spell where it might do d6 damage, you can just say nah on a 50-50 dice roll. They also have a unit coherency of 2 inches, which means they can have a 2-inch gap between them. Lets you spread them out. I think the main thing is because the wings are absolutely in the older version of these prosecutors, the wings are terrible in terms of getting in the way of each other. Though this is real spice, like using the charge phase, which is the Heralds of Righteousness ability. The effect is you +1 to the number dice rolled, making a charge roll to a maximum of 3. So they've got a 3d6 charge, which means they can move 12 and potentially charge 18 inches. More than likely, on 3 dice, you're going to be averaging about a 12 or so, which is still really, really nice. And if these come down from deep strike, you've got a very good chance of making that 9-inch charge, providing there's no way to make that charge shorter like there was in the previous edition. Finally, we've got the Humble Liberator. Standard Stormcast unit characteristics, which is a 5-inch move, 2 wounds, 3+ save, and a 1 control score. These come in a unit of 5 as standard. Each 1 in every 5 can replace the Warhammer with a Grand Hammer, though the champion can't replace the weapon with a Grand Hammer, which means you can't unfortunately get the extra attack on the Warhammer, or the Grand Hammer, sorry. So they've got 2 weapons. Everything has got a Warhammer, which is 2 attacks, freeze, -1, 1 damage. And they do mortals on crits, which is a 6 to hit. Then one unit can have, one model in the unit will have a Grand Hammer, which is 2 attacks, freeze, 1 damage. No, sorry. Freeze, -1 rend, 2 damage. And then they also have mortals and crit, which means they'll do flat 2 damage on a 6 to hit. There's 5, as I mentioned, there's 5 in this unit, so you got a fair amount of attacks. It's your standard battle line. Their ability is a nice one, which is Stalwart Defenders. You add +3 to the unit's control score when it's contesting an objective wholly within your territory. It's quite nice because they only have the control score of 1. Unfortunately, it's not per model, it's per the unit, so that's something people may get confused with. So a unit of 5 of these on a home objective would count as 8. So 1 for each model, +3 for the ability. These look very nice for what they are. Your cheap objective holders, and they can swing back pretty hard if you get some 6s. As a whole, none of these massively blow us away, but it's hard to tell without seeing obviously the future models that are coming, as well as existing ones and how they have changed. I think they've all got a place generally, and I like where they're going with Stormcast. I have played a fair bit of them in this edition. Well, or the previous edition, sorry. But I guess we'll just wait and see how they turn out. Again, like and share for the algorithm. Don't take it out too seriously. Ask your mates if they're doing okay. Because not enough people will speak out. Talk out, speak out. See, just enjoy it. Have a good one, lads.